Let's talk about trust. It's a word we throw around all the time, right? But have you ever really stopped to think about what it is? Because it's one of the most powerful, fundamental forces in our lives. It's like this invisible architecture holding up our relationships, our communities, our entire society. So yeah, let's dive into this huge and honestly pretty complex topic. To get us started, I want you to think about something really simple: your alarm clock. You rely on it, you count on it to get you up in the morning. But do you trust it? It sounds like a trick question, I know, but the answer really gets to the heart of what we're talking about today. You see, there's a world of difference between relying on something and actually trusting it. You rely on your clock because it's predictable. It's a machine. If it breaks, you're annoyed, you're disappointed. But trust is a whole other level. It's about believing in someone's goodwill. And when that breaks, you're not just disappointed, you feel betrayed. And that feeling, that's the key. And that distinction right there is everything. Understanding trust means getting that it's so much more than just things working the way we expect. It's about the emotional, even moral, weight we put into our connections with other people. The philosopher Annette Baillet just nails it with this quote: "Betrayal. That's a feeling that is reserved only for a violation of trust." And why is that? Well, when we trust somebody, we're not just making a prediction about what they'll do. We're counting on their good intentions towards us. Betrayal is that sharp, painful sting when we realize that goodwill just wasn't there. Okay, so if trust isn't just reliance, then what is it exactly? Well, at its very core, trusting someone is an act of making ourselves vulnerable. It's a leap of faith, really, and it's based on something way deeper than just simple predictability. Bayer's definition here is so powerful. She calls it an accepted vulnerability. Think about that. When you trust someone, you are consciously or maybe unconsciously handing them the power to hurt you. But you do it because you're confident they won't. You accept that risk because you believe in their good intentions. Or, at the very least, you don't expect them to have bad ones. You can actually break this down into a really simple model, a kind of triangle. Every single act of trust has three parts. You have person A, that's the one doing the trusting. Then you have person B, the one who's being trusted. And then there's thing C, that's the valued thing that's being entrusted. It could be a secret, your feelings, your safety, a project at work. It's never just I trust you. It's always I trust you with something. So this all brings up a really fascinating question. Is this vulnerability thing something we have to learn, or is it just how we're wired from the start? Let's dig into where trust actually begins. Well, according to the psychologist Erik Erikson, the very first challenge we face in life as tiny infants is learning trust versus mistrust. I mean, from the second we're born, we are completely and totally dependent. Our survival literally depends on trusting that our caregivers are going to show up and meet our needs. That is our first, most foundational experience of trust. And believe it or not, this early experience shapes a major philosophical debate. You've got two camps. On one side, the reductionists. They argue you should always start with skepticism. Trust has to be earned with cold, hard evidence. But on the other side, you've got the anti-reductionists. They say, no, that's backwards. Trust should be the default setting. It's our natural starting point, and it's there until someone gives you a reason to doubt. And honestly, the case for trust being our factory setting is pretty convincing. Just think about it for a second. How does a child learn a language? They can't ask for peer-reviewed studies on what the word apple means. They just have to trust the people around them. We all trust our own senses and our memories to get through the day, right? As the epistemologist Victor Geisbers points out, if we didn't start with this basic default trust, we literally couldn't even begin to learn anything about the world. But, of course, that simple innate trust we start with gets a whole lot more complicated as we get older and our world gets bigger. It has to evolve from those one-on-one relationships to the massive, often anonymous institutions that run our society. And you can see this evolution pretty clearly. It starts with that raw, innate bond between a baby and a parent. Then it grows into interpersonal trust, with friends. But to deal with strangers, we had to invent artificial systems like contracts and laws. And eventually, that scales all the way up to institutional trust, where we have to put our faith in these huge, faceless systems like the media or the government. And this is where the stakes become incredibly high. As the philosopher Honora O'Neill warns us, when our institutions, like the media, become untrustworthy, the fallout is just catastrophic. If we can't trust the information they're giving us, our whole ability to make smart decisions as a society just crumbles. It's like the well of public life has been poisoned, and we're all forced to drink from it.
So here's the bottom line. The incredible power and freedom we give to these institutions comes with a massive responsibility. A free press is absolutely essential for democracy, no question. But that freedom isn't a license to deceive. It's supposed to enable trust by telling the truth.
So, as we start to wrap this up, it's pretty clear that trust is way more than just a feeling or some kind of transaction. You could think of it as the very environment, the atmosphere, where our lives and our societies either flourish or completely fall apart.
I think this quote from Cicely Bogue just says it all. Trust is the atmosphere. It's like the air we breathe. You don't really notice it when it's there, but the second it's gone or polluted, you realize nothing can survive. Love, friendship, cooperation, innovation, whatever it is you value, it needs trust to thrive.
And maybe this is the deepest takeaway of all. Trust isn't just some nice social skill. It's an intellectual virtue. To really learn anything, to grow, to gain any actual knowledge about the world, you need more than just being smart. You need a trusting character. You need that basic willingness to be a little vulnerable and to accept the goodwill of others as your starting point.
Which leaves us with a huge and very timely question. If trust really is this core virtue, how in the world do we practice it? How do we cultivate it in a world that seems to give us more and more reasons to be suspicious? Recognizing its importance is the first step, but figuring out how to build it in ourselves and in our society, well, that's the great challenge for all of us.